All right, so today we're jumping into a single moment that really kicked off a world-changing mission, the baptism of Jesus. And this is so much more than just a ceremony in a river. We're going to unpack this whole event as the official, public start of a movement that, would literally reshape history. So let's get right into it. And right off the bat, we're hit with a really fascinating question. You see, baptism at that time was all about turning away from sin. So the central puzzle is, why would Jesus, who his followers believe was completely sinless, even need to be baptized? Let's keep that question in the back of our minds as we go through this. Every great story has to start somewhere. So our story takes us to a famous river where there's already this powerful spiritual movement happening, and it's setting the stage for an encounter that's going to change everything. So let's picture the scene. We're at the Jordan River, but it's not just a river. This place is buzzing with spiritual energy. I mean, crowds of people are flocking here, all drawn by this powerful message of starting over. You can just imagine the energy in the air. And who's at the center of it all? A man named John. We know him as John the Baptist. His message was incredibly direct, no messing around. It was, turn away from sin and follow God. He was the spark that lit this whole fire. So, into this really charged atmosphere walks Jesus. And what he asks for, well, it's something nobody saw coming. It creates this moment of real tension that kind of stops everyone in their tracks. Jesus comes up to John and asks him to baptize him. Now, on the surface, that sounds simple enough. But for John, this was a jaw-dropping moment. He saw Jesus as someone way greater than himself. So he's probably thinking, why would I be the one baptizing him? And look at John's immediate reaction. He just says, I should be baptized by you. And this isn't just him being polite. This is a huge statement of humility. He gets who Jesus is, and he feels like the roles should be completely flipped. Jesus' response here is absolutely crucial. He doesn't get into an argument about who's more important. He just says, this is the right thing to do. It is part of God's plan. He's totally reframing the whole thing. It's not about status, it's about following a much bigger divine purpose. Okay, so John is on board and the stage is set for the main events. And what happens after the baptism is, well, it's anything but ordinary. It's one of those moments where heaven and earth seem to just collide in this really dramatic way. And so the moment arrives. John, taking Jesus' words to heart, puts his own doubts aside. He goes ahead with the baptism, immersing Jesus in the waters of the Jordan. The second Jesus comes up out of the water, the real climax of the story hits. Boom. 3 things happen, one right after the other. The sky literally parts, the Holy Spirit descends in the form of a dove, and then, the most direct sign of all, a voice speaks from heaven. And that voice says something completely unmistakable. This is my beloved Son. I am very pleased with him. I mean, this isn't some quiet whisper. It's a loud and clear public declaration, leaving absolutely no doubt for anyone there about who Jesus is. Can you just imagine being there for a second? The people who saw this happen were, of course, just stunned. One minute you're watching a baptism ceremony, and the next, the heavens open up and you're hearing the voice of God. Just incredible. So what was the point of all that? The big spectacle? Well, this is where we learn that the baptism wasn't the end of the story. It was the starting line. It was the official beginning of the mission. Yeah, this whole event wasn't a private moment for Jesus or John. It was a massive public sign. You could say it was God's way of pointing a giant cosmic spotlight on Jesus and saying, hey everyone, this is him, this is who he is. So what was that mission all about? Well, it's often boiled down to these 3 powerful ideas. He was sent to love the world, to teach the world, and ultimately, to save the world. The baptism was like the starting pistol for a race. From that day on, Jesus begins his public ministry. The mission is officially a go. He starts traveling, helping people, and teaching them all about God's love. So, if we look past all the drama and the incredible signs, what's the lesson here? What are we supposed to take away from this whole story? It really seems to come down to one very powerful idea. And that idea is about having a humble heart. And we're not just talking about being quiet or thinking less of yourself. In this story, it's defined as choosing to obey God's plan and, this is key, setting an example for everyone else to follow. And that brings us full circle, right back to our original question. Why did Jesus get baptized? Well, now we see it had nothing to do with him needing to be cleansed from sin. It was an act of incredible humility and perfect obedience. his way of showing that he was committed to seeing God's plan through. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. This whole event was a public beginning, one that was marked by humility and a total commitment to a purpose. So if this is how such a monumental mission started, it really makes you wonder, what does it take to begin our own?